Okay, so again, good afternoon to everyone. So we'll be continuing our discussion on the second part of carbohydrates. So this is all about the diseases, the disorders that is associated with carbohydrates. Okay, so let's proceed. So this morning we were discussing about diabetes mellitus. Okay, we were discussing about diabetes mellitus, and we actually stopped on the different complications of DM. Okay, we actually stopped on the um, different complications related to diabetes mellitus. So first is nephropathy. So one evidence of nephropathy is actually your microalbuminuria in the early stage of diabetes mellitus, but eventually you will proceed with proteinuria eventually. We also have retinopathy. That's why there are some patients with diabetes mellitus that are actually prone to blindness because of increased glucose and its deposition in their retina, and neuropathy as well, and of course increased heart diseases. So for the rest of our discussion for today, I'll be discussing a few more of the diseases. So the other parts with regards to gestational diabetes, and then eventually we'll go to the glycogen storage diseases eventually. So, of course, million-dollar question pagdating sa carbohydrates natin is that how will you be able to identify that a patient has diabetes mellitus, correct? So, hindi naman dahil mataas yung kanyang glucose at that particular moment, that doesn't mean na yun na or mataas na talaga or diabetes na agad yung case ng patient natin. There will be times, that's why um, I was telling you before that patient preparation is very important because um, how good or how efficient the patient preparation is will determine also how reliable the test results will be. So when it comes to glucose, of course, medyo madami tayong mga different tests. When I say madaming tests, it actually is the same principle. The same test is being applied. It's just that the manner on how you perform the test is different. So this morning, 'di ba, we were talking about um, impaired fasting glucose and impaired glucose tolerance. You have such, even though both of them are actually measuring the glucose in the same way, parehas sila ng way and manner on how you will be collecting or measuring the glucose. It's just that yung mismong procedure ng test ang nagkakaiba-iba, kaya may iba-iba tayong testing when it comes to glucose. Much of that later on as we proceed. Okay? But as for the laboratory findings, okay, as for the laboratory findings with regards to your diabetes mellitus, please be familiar of this laboratory findings. The first one is decreased blood and urine pH. Perhaps by this time, I hope you realize why did we have such decrease in the pH. So meaning to say, acidic yung pH ng kanyang blood at ng kanyang urine. And we can actually attribute that to where? We can attribute that to ketosis. Okay? So again remember that ketosis, their ketones are actually acidic compounds. And the presence of high ketones in your body, ketonuria and even ketonemia, will actually cause an increase in the hydrogen ions of your plasma or your urine, leading now to an acidic pH. So here you have ketones that are present in your urine called ketonuria, and you also have ketonemia, one that the ketones now that are found in your blood. So later we will also be discussing a quick run through of the different tests being used to measure your ketones. In addition to that, there will also be increased specific gravity and osmolality. So hopefully, yung sinasabi ko this afternoon na mga reasons onto why this particular laboratory findings are present, you are writing it down, okay? So the increased specific gravity is first and foremost because of the presence already of your glucose in your urine. So please take note that this morning we were discussing that three of the most um, osmolality active na compounds natin are your glucose, your urea or your BUN, and your sodium. So please do remember that an increased presence of your glucose both in your urine and in your plasma would cause an increased specific gravity, hence an increased osmolality as well. Okay? So remember that a while back we were talking about hyperosmolar coma when we were talking about diabetes mellitus type 2. So that is very much important. Next, number 4, there would be an ABG imbalance. What is ABG? That is arterial blood gas imbalance. Arterial blood gas imbalance. The arterial blood gas imbalance, remember this morning I was talking to you about the hyperventilation, the carbon dioxide being released during hyperventilation, during diabetic ketoacidosis. So, in arterial blood gas imbalance, there will be a decreased bicarbonate and an increased carbon dioxide. That is the reason why you have ketoacidosis as well. Di ba? Tumaas yung iyong hydrogen concentration. Your hydrogen concentration together with your hydrogen ion rather together with your carbon dioxide will make up now your carbonic acid. So your carbonic acid being increased in your blood, in your in your system would now cause an acidosis. So when we say acidosis, guys, acidic yung pH ng inyong blood. So meaning to say that is less than, what is the normal pH of the blood? Once again, what is the normal pH of the blood? Can I hear from you from the chat box? 7, what?
7.35 to 7.45.
Okay, 7.35 to 7.45. Correct. So, meaning to say, when we are having acidosis, the pH of your blood is less than 7.35. Okay? Less than 7.35. So, nakikita ninyo yung correlation, di ba? One tiny detail lang na alam natin that ketones is present during diabetes mellitus, then the rest of this you will be able to explain. Okay? That's why it's very important na you know the pathophysiology, the pathogenesis of diabetes mellitus because you would know what symptoms, what laboratory findings is to be expected. So, the type of respiration or the type of hyperventilation seen in patient with diabetes mellitus is your Cosmolken respiration. So, meaning to say, increase yung kanyang respiration. There is hyperventilation in an attempt, okay? In an attempt to return or to normalize your pH back to 7.35 to 7.45. So, lahat yan from number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 are all being compensated by your hyperventilation. And kanina, we were also mentioning that there is electrolyte imbalance. Okay? There is electrolyte imbalance. So remember what I was telling this morning, wherever your water is going, your sodium and your glucose is also there. Wherever your glucose is going, wherever your sodium is going, nandun din si water. So in this case, electrolyte imbalance, because of that decrease in your sodium, okay? Because of that decrease in your sodium, polyuria is present. And at the same time, the shift of water from your cell is also evident. What do we mean by that? Dahil na-secrete or na-excrete mo yung sodium together with your water, what would happen is that your cells now, di ba parang yung ano yan yung hypertonic solution. Okay? Greater concentration outside the cell. That's why most of your intracellular fluid will go out of the cell together with your potassium. That's why what would happen is that mataas si potassium on your plasma. At the same time, the intracellular fluid will also leak outside, going now sa extracellular environment, causing now yung sinasabi natin this morning na edema in our patient. Are you getting me? Okay? So because of that electrolyte imbalance, okay? Because of that electrolyte imbalance, 'di ba, na-excrete si sodium. To maintain the electron neutrality, potassium will go out of the cell together with the intracellular fluid. And because of that, mataas si potassium sa labas, and at the same time, yung intracellular fluid natin would also cause now your edema for your patients. Okay? Would also cause edema in our patient. So, and as simple as this, di ba, na itong laboratory findings, this would actually help you a lot when it comes to your case studies that will be coming in the coming, that will be given to you in the coming days. Okay? So, let's go now to the levels of your glucose. So we all know that diabetes mellitus is hyperglycemia. There is uncontrolled increase of glucose in your plasma. Okay? In your hyperglycemia. So according to Macpherson, this is coming from your Henrys. This can be found on table 16-1. So we have three. Okay? I just want to mention three laboratory tests that were done here. Number one is your fasting plasma glucose, also known as your fasting blood glucose. So we have your fasting plasma glucose. We have your 2-hour plasma glucose level, and we have your HbA1c. So let us look at this one. So you have here normal, the pre-diabetes, impaired glucose fasting, impaired glucose tolerance, and one that is very much definitive that this is already diabetes mellitus. So this morning we were discussing the risk factors being impaired fasting glucose and impaired glucose tolerance. Ito na siya. So what do we mean by the fasting plasma glucose? Later on, I will be discussing the the exact laboratory method or the methodology, yung mismong procedure that we are doing. But let me first define to you what is fasting blood glucose versus 2-hour plasma glucose level and HbA1c. So let us go with the fasting plasma glucose or the fasting blood glucose, because perhaps this is one test that most of you knew. Okay? Alam niyo to karamihan sa inyo. So fasting blood glucose, remember when we defined coming from the CLSI guideline, okay? Coming from the CLSI guideline, that the fasting for carbohydrate or the fasting for your glucose measurement should be 8 to what? 8 to 12 hours, okay? 8 to 12 hours. So, when it comes to the measurement of fasting blood glucose, of course, nandun na fasting. Fasting is a requirement. So, meaning to say, nothing by mouth, and PO, none per orem. So, when it comes to fasting blood glucose, okay, when it comes to fasting blood glucose, you will be requiring your patient. I am just talking about the procedure here, okay? We will be requiring your patient to fast for at least 8 hours to 12 hours, okay? 8 hours to 12 hours. In some references, you would be seeing there at least 6 hours, okay? At least 6 hours. But most of the hospitals, most of the clinics are actually requiring a minimum of 8 hours and maximum of 12. Okay? Maximum of 12 hours. So, when it comes to fasting plasma glucose, these are the level. Okay? These are the level. For normal, okay? For normal, it should be less than 100 milligrams per deciliter. The mg per dl is your conventional. Your millimoles per liter is your SI unit. Okay? Your SI unit. Baka magtaka kayo bakit dalawa yung units at dalawa yung nakalagay dito. Okay, so for your fasting glucose, normal fasting blood glucose of your patient would be less than 100 milligrams per deciliter or less than 5.6 millimoles per liter. Okay? Millimoles per liter. What about with patient that has impaired fasting glucose? So this morning, I was mentioning that people with impaired fasting glucose are not to be considered diabetic immediately, but to be closely monitored in the coming quarter. Why? Because impaired fasting glucose, number one, is a risk factor for diabetes mellitus. And as you can see here, okay, as you can see here, the level of their fasting blood glucose is above normal. Above normal, but below the diabetic standard. So, talon ako sa diabetes mellitus ha. For you to be able to be um, considered as a patient with diabetes mellitus, your fasting plasma glucose should be greater than 126 milligrams per deciliter. So, meaning to say, siguro you will be asking, sir, what about the values in between 100 and 126, which is 100 to 125? That is now to be considered your impaired glucose fasting. Okay? Hindi ka pa diabetic, pero hindi ka din ganun ka-normal. Are you getting me? So, hindi ka diabetic, pero hindi din ganun ka-normal yung iyong glucose level. That is the reason why patient with such glucose level should be closely monitored. Okay? Should be closely monitored. And me saying closely monitored, hindi lang mas frequent yung check-up nila, but there will also be additional tests that will be required for them to do. Okay? So, can I see a thumbs up if I'm clear when it comes to fasting blood glucose? I can only see a couple of students with their cameras turned on. Okay. So, um, one more time, okay? Again, when it comes to fasting blood glucose, umiiling si De Aros eh. When it comes to fasting blood glucose, may tatlo kang criteria, okay? You have the normal, you have the impaired fasting glucose, and you have those with diabetes mellitus already. So, ang makikita mo dito are the reference interval, okay? Itinaas ang hinlalaki, okay. So, you have here your reference interval. Your reference interval here, ayan, is less than 100. Pag less than 100 yung glucose mo, normal patient. Not impaired, not even diabetic. Okay? Now, what happen if your blood glucose levels are 100 greater than 126 milligrams per deciliter? Okay? Like for this one, greater than or equal to 126 milligrams per deciliter, that is now considered to be a diabetes mellitus. Okay? That is already seen in patient with diabetes mellitus. Okay? Nakikita? Greater than 126. Ngayon, we have a value in between that, which is 100 to 125 milligrams per deciliter. If your patient falls within that border, within that gap of 100 to 125, you will consider that patient to be having an impaired fasting glucose. Okay? Impaired fasting glucose. And what do we do kapag yung patient may impaired fasting glucose? You will be, the doctor will be requesting some additional tests, and the patient will be closely monitored for the coming months. Are we clear? Nakukuha? Are we clear? So, that is for the fasting blood glucose. Hindi ko pa dinedescribe kung paano mini-measure ha, but just the procedure of fasting plasma glucose. On the other hand, let's go here. Medyo bear with me with the 2-hour plasma glucose level after 75 grams glucose load. Kasi this procedure is somehow complicated, which will be discussed further naman later on. So, when it comes to we will be having a recording of this. So just to save time, I won't be repeating myself from the top. So you can actually have I'll be sending you a copy of this lecture right after I downloaded it. So when it comes to 2 hour plasma glucose level, this is your tolerance test, glucose tolerance test. Okay, this is your glucose tolerance test. Sir, how is the 2 hour OGTT or the oral glucose tolerance test, yan yung tawag dyan, oral glucose tolerance test, or your 2 hour plasma glucose level is being done? Okay, listen carefully. Okay, I need all your attentions here right now. Okay? So how do we do this? Number one, you would be requiring your patient first to fast for again 8 to 12 hours. Fasting ulit. Okay? Ang 2-hour plasma glucose natin, bakit siya tinawag na 2-hour? Ano po yung 2 hours na nakalagay doon? Okay? You will actually be waiting 2 hours bago mo kunan ulit yung pasyente. Okay, ganito yung mangyayari. Take for example, I have Maricar. Maricar came into the clinic, and then I will be asking her first if she did fast for 8 to 12 hours. Take for example, yung request ng test niya is your oral glucose tolerance test. Nag-fasting si Maricar. Okay, fasting. 8 to 12 hours, correct, check. So I will be taking her fasting blood glucose. Okay? I'll be taking her fasting blood glucose. And in this case, this measurement will become now the baseline of her measurement. Okay? The baseline of her measurement. Right after, okay? Right after I collect blood, right after I collect blood from her, okay, for her fasting glucose, the next thing that I would do is to give her a 75 grams of glucose load. Okay? Ano po yung glucose load, sir? The glucose load is actually a drink, 75 grams, that contains 75 grams of glucose. Nakukuha? Papainumin ko siya ng isang solution that contains 75 grams of glucose. What will happen after that? After ingestion niya ng 75 grams of glucose solution, I will wait for 1 hour. After 1 hour, I will collect blood from her again. Okay? And then after another hour, okay, I will be collecting her second batch of her blood para naman sa second hour niya. Okay? Para sa second hour. Am I making sense? Am I making sense, guys? Wait lang ha. Ayan. Am I making sense? So, anong nangyari? Una, ang ginawa ni Maricar, uminom muna siya ng fasting glucose. So, let me share my screen. Share ako ng screen ko so that you'll be able to isusulat ko siya ng isa-isa. Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay. So in the 2-hour OGTT or yun nga as defined by Henry's 2-hour plasma glucose level. Okay? Anong ginagawa natin? First, we will be having your patients fasting blood glucose, FBS, or fasting blood sugar. Okay? So, after fasting blood sugar, ayan yung una yung ginawa. So, ang requirement niyan, 8 to 12 hour na fasting. Okay? Afterwards, what will I do? I will administer, okay? I will now try to administer the 75 grams, okay, of glucose drink. So this is a solution that contains 75 grams of glucose. And then afterwards, ang mangyayari, I will wait for 1 hour and then extract blood ulit. And then wait for another hour. And then same thing. You will extract blood once again. So take for example, gawin nating oras talaga to ha. Kunwari early morning, na kinunan ko ng dugo si Maricar around 7 o'clock. Ininom niya yung glucose drink naubos niya ng 7:05. What time will I collect her blood? Again, 8:05 and 9:05. Okay? So kung makikita ninyo, when doing your 2-hour oral glucose tolerance test, you will be extracting blood 1, 2, and 3. 3 times. Okay? 3 times mo siyang i-collect. Ano yung purpose nito? Ano yung main purpose nito? For you to check if the patient can metabolize the 75 grams of glucose within 2 hours. Why 2 hours, sir? Because a normal individual, a normal patient, can metabolize your 75 grams of glucose within 2 hours. Meaning to say, after 2 hours, ang kanyang blood glucose will now return to normal. Okay? Will now return to normal. Let me go back to my presentation. Okay? Let me go back to my presentation. In the criteria, okay, in the criteria given by McPherson, adopted from ADA, here, what we have, ang normal blood glucose, ang normal na 2-hour plasma glucose ng isang patient is is less than 140 milligrams per deciliter. Okay? Greater than 140 milligrams per deciliter. We would say it is diabetes mellitus kung after 2 hours, greater than or equal to 200 pa rin yung kanyang blood glucose. Nakukuha? Kapag yung pasyente mo, after 2 hours, less than 140 na, normal yung patient. But after 2 hours, kunwari after 2 hours, after the fasting blood glucose, the first hour and the second hour collection, the blood glucose of your patient is still greater than or equal to 200 milligrams per deciliter. That is already diabetes mellitus. Are we clear? That is already diabetes mellitus. What about the one in between? 140 to 199 milligrams per deciliter. What do we call that? That is now what? Your impaired glucose tolerance. Nakukuha? Impaired glucose tolerance. So, these are two different procedures that has been done, and that is why you need to memorize this table. You need to familiarize yourself with this table because this will be your guide in the diagnosis of prediabetes and diabetes mellitus. Okay? Diabetes mellitus. So, let's move on with HbA1c. Okay? Your HbA1c are called your glycated hemoglobin. Okay? These are called your glycated hemoglobin. Ano yung ganap ni glycated hemoglobin? Remember in hematology, we have hemoglobin A, hemoglobin A1, and hemoglobin A2. Hemoglobin A1c is actually a variant of hemoglobin A1. Okay? Hemoglobin A1 that has high affinity to your glucose. Okay? So this hemoglobin is already been glycated. And later on, as we move forward dun sa mga testing natin, I will be explaining what hemoglobin A1c is all about. But as for the levels of your hemoglobin A1c, the normal is 5.7 to 6.4, okay? 5.7 to 6.4%. Please take note of the percent yung units niya. 5.7 to 6.4%. And for patient with diabetes mellitus, we are expecting a greater than or equal to 6.5 HbA1c every testing. Okay? Every testing. So, please take note of this table. Again, mamaya babalikan ulit natin ito. Okay? But let me now proceed to the other diabetes mellitus. This morning, Gebulan, can you please unmute your mic? What is the pathogenesis of your type 1 diabetes mellitus? What causes the type 1 diabetes mellitus?
Um,
Hello, sir. Good afternoon po.
Good afternoon.
Sir,
When do you have diabetes mellitus type 1?
ano po, sir? Beta cell, the destruction of beta cells po, sir.
Okay, correct. Beta cell destruction. And why are those beta cell destroyed again?
Ano po, kasi po, kasi po yung presence po ng, presence po ng hyperglycemia, sir.
Hyperglycemia. But there is a presence of hyperglycemia. That's
May,
why
may autoimmune reaction po, sir.
autoimmune reaction. So meaning there is a presence of your auto antibodies. Okay? The presence of your auto antibodies. Thank you, Miss Gebulan. So this morning we were talking about that. Okay? Type 1 beta cell destruction because of auto antibodies. Okay? Auto antibodies. And the other types of diabetes are actually due to pancreatic disorders. Okay? Pancreatic disorders that has to do with your beta cells as well. So we have such endocrine disorders such as Cushing syndrome, your pheochromocytoma, acromegaly, and hyperthyroidism. Okay? And hyperthyroidism. Nakakabulol yung mga terms, but bago pa kayo ma-overwhelm, remember that when we discuss your hormones, isn't it we discuss the different hormones responsible in regulating the metabolism of your carbohydrates, correct? So, let us try to review. If there is increased cortisol, okay? If there is increased cortisol, what will happen to the glucose level? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Kapag increase, thumbs up. Kapag decrease, thumbs down. If you have increased cortisol, hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia, thumbs up or thumbs down? Okay, wala pa. Okay, may nagdadasal na lang. Okay. So itinaas daw ang hinlalaki, sabi ni Joshua Davis. Correct. Thumbs up because that will cause hyperglycemia. An excessive increase in your cortisol is called Cushing syndrome. Nakukuha? Excessive increase or abnormal increase in your cortisol levels are called we call that condition Cushing syndrome. Okay? We call that Cushing syndrome. What about your pheochromocytoma? Remember your epinephrine? Okay, epinephrine, thumbs up or thumbs down? Hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia? Okay? Hyperglycemia. Correct. Hyperglycemia, thumbs up. Pheochromocytoma is a condition where there is an increased amount of epinephrine in your body. Okay? Increased amount of epinephrine in your body. Pheochromocytoma. What about acromegaly? Okay? What are the two hormones secreted in the pituitary gland? We have two. We have
Growth hormone and adrenocorticotropic hormone.
adrenocorticotropic hormone. Okay. Acromegaly, which one is increased? Growth hormone or your adrenocorticotropic hormone?
Growth hormone.
Your?
Growth hormone.
Ito magot both. Sagot ni Gab, growth hormone. Sagot dito, growth hormone, GH. The correct answer is your growth hormone. Okay? Growth hormone is increased in cases of acromegaly. Okay? In cases of acromegaly, it is your growth hormones that is increased. In hyperthyroidism, ito baka hindi tayo sure dito. Hyperthyroidism, anong hormone ang increase? What hormone is increased? Your thyroxine. Correct. Your thyroxine. Ayan. Your thyroxine. So nakikita ninyo, imbalances in your hormones could also lead to the development of your diabetes mellitus. Like take for example, increase in your cortisol, seen in Cushing syndrome, increased epinephrine in pheochromocytoma, increased growth hormone in acromegaly, and increased thyroxine or thyroid hormones in your hyperthyroidism. All of them now will influence your blood glucose to increase. Okay? There are also chemicals or drug inducers of diabetes mellitus. So number one, we have those that causes beta cell dysfunction, like your dilantin and pentamidine. We also have impaired impaired insulin action caused by thiazides and your glucocorticoids. Okay, your glucocorticoids. So these are the reason why you will be having diabetes, aside from the autoantibodies seen in type 1 and the loss of insulin receptors seen in type 2 diabetes mellitus. We also have genetic syndromes like your Down syndrome, your Klinefelter syndrome, your Rabson-Mendengal syndrome, and your leprechauniasm. Okay? Your leprechauniasm. So, in most cases, okay, in most cases that will be given to you eventually, minsan may mga ganyan ng sakit, may existing na silang sakit, and then you will now find out if there is diabetes mellitus, a progression of diabetes mellitus, or wala. Nakukuha? Okay. Nagets ba tayo dito sa endocrine disorders? Are we clear with the endocrine disorders? At first, medyo overwhelming. Parang, hala, ano tong mga sakit na to? Pero gaya nga nung sabi ko, if you listen intently and carefully, that's why nag-allot tayo ng time last time with regards to metabolism and even the regulation of your carbohydrate is for this reason. Mas mabilis na natin siya ngayon ma-remember. It's easier for us now to memorize and actually to familiarize ourselves with the different diseases because we know how things are happening. Okay? How things are happening. So, can we move on now? Can we move on now to gestational diabetes? Okay? So let's move forward and let's go to the last type of diabetes mellitus, which is your gestational diabetes mellitus. So diabetes mellitus that are seen during pregnancy, okay, are just is actually transient. Although, gaya nung sabi ko kaninang morning, uncontrolled blood glucose for patient with gestational diabetes can actually progress to type 2 diabetes mellitus by the age of 40. Okay? By the age of 40. So kapag hindi yun na check, hindi siya nabantayan, it can actually progress to type 2 diabetes mellitus. So glucose intolerance during pregnancy because of hormonal imbalances. So, due to those metabolic and hormonal changes, your patient develops your gestational diabetes. Okay? Develop your gestational diabetes. There is insulin, but since there are hormonal changes within the body, ang nangyayari, nagkakaroon tayo ng ng gestational diabetes. That is the reason why pregnant women are actually encouraged to have their prenatal check-up as well. Okay? Yung prenatal check-up, nasasabay na doon. So, screening should be performed between 24 to 28 weeks of gestation. So, makikita nyo dito, meron tayong 1-hour glucose challenge test. O, di ba? Pupunta ka sa laboratory, i-challenge ka ng mga medtech na uminom ng glucose. Okay? Hindi to extra challenge, guys, ha? Hindi to extra challenge. Later, I'll explain it sa inyo in a short while. Pakita lang natin yung second part. Okay? When it comes to gestational diabetes, the problem here, okay, can be seen in your oral glucose tolerance test. Okay? I'll move on, ha? Ayan. So, the plasma glucose level concentration of 140 milligrams per deciliter or greater. Sir, bakit 3-hour OGTT tapos 100 grams glucose? This is a special for pregnant women. Okay? Special for pregnant women. Usually, if your patient is pregnant, ang nire-request ng doctor is 100 grams oral glucose tolerance test. And unlike the usual na oral glucose tolerance test, kanina ilang grams tayo ng glucose? 75, correct. 75 grams lang ng glucose. This time, we have 100 grams and Instead of 2 hours, 3 hours. So meaning to say, may baseline ka after 1 hour. Kung kanina, yung example natin, 7 o'clock ka kinunan, 7:09 mo naubos yung 100 grams of glucose. So 1 hour, so that is 8:05, 9:05, at 10:05 kakukunan ng dugo. Sir, talaga bang meron pang nagpapatest ng 3-hour glucose tolerance? Yes. We still have patients being requested for a 3-hour glucose tolerance test. Okay? Same principle with the 75 grams oral glucose tolerance test. Okay? Same principle dun sa 2-hour nag-oral glucose tolerance test. Ito 3-hour glucose tolerance test lang. Okay? And of course, makikita ninyo, meron siyang mga levels. And as you can see guys, normal yung FBS and then greater than 80, normal pa yan. These are the reference interval. And usually, okay, usually kapag yung patient mo greater than or equal to 140 milligrams per deciliter pa din after, okay, after, ang mangyayari dyan would now be your diabetes mellitus or gestational diabetes mellitus. Okay? So I'll give you time to copy this. And by the way, I'll be giving you naman the video. So you'll be able to have a copy of that. Okay. So can I see a thumbs up if I can move on to the next slide? Babalik kasi ako dun sa oral glucose challenge test. Okay? Sabi ko kanina, 'di ba, si 2-hour glucose tolerance test with 75 grams of glucose at si 3-hour glucose tolerance test with 100 grams of glucose are the same. Anong pinagkaiba, sir, ni 1-hour glucose challenge test? 50 grams of glucose lang siya. Okay? 50 grams of glucose lang siya. Okay? Please write this down. During oral glucose challenge test, there is no fasting required. Pupunta si patient, papainumin mo ng 50 grams of glucose, and then after 1 hour, you will collect blood for testing. Nakukuha yung procedure natin. So, or during glucose challenge test, the patient is not required to fast. Okay, the patient is not required to fast. They will come into the laboratory. You will be giving them 50 grams of glucose and then wait for 1 hour. And then after 1 hour, you collect your blood and then you will be getting your results. Are we getting me? Clear tayo doon? So, kung mapapansin ninyo, no, ilang test na yung binigay ko sa inyo. May fasting blood glucose, may 2-hour, may 3-hour, may 1-hour glucose challenge test. Pero alam nyo guys, you don't need to be overwhelmed. The procedures are different, pero the way on how you measure that inside the laboratory is the same. Yung procedure, kung paano mo nilalagay sa spektro, parehas lang. It's just that the procedure is different. Okay? Yung patient preparation lang yung iba. Okay? Okay. So, moving forward now, what is to be expected? Ayan. So, glucose, your gestational diabetes mellitus can convert to diabetes mellitus type 2 within 10 years in 30 to 40% of the cases. So 30 to 40% of the cases of GDM progresses to type 2 diabetes mellitus. Okay? So again, paulit-ulit ko nang sinasabi mula pa kaninang umaga, kapag uncontrolled yung glucose level, even after that, you have a chance of what? Not winning, but getting diabetes mellitus say 10 years after the GDM. Okay? So for the patient naman, this morning kanina, 'di ba, tinatanong ni Etrata what will happen to the baby if the mother has gestational diabetes. So aside from transient hyperglycemia, of course, magkakaroon siya ng respiratory distress syndrome, hypocalcemia at hyperbilirubinemia. Okay? Hyperbilirubinemia. Okay? So this will be expected to your patient that will be having your babies, okay, that will be delivered from a GDM positive na parent, okay, or yeah, a GDM positive mother, okay. So ayan, actually we're nearing the end na. We're nearing the end of the different diseases. Okay. So let's move forward now. Okay. So here, again, another table coming from Henry's. This is table 16-2. So this is how you diagnose your gestational diabetes. We have your one step and we have your two step. Okay? We have your two step. This one, they perform 75 grams oral glucose tolerance test. And as you can see, anong mahalagang makita dito are the glucose levels. So dapat the diagnosis of GDM is made when any of the following plasma glucose value are exceeded. So kung yung 1 hour, yung 2 hour niya are exceeded, greater than 180, greater than 153, then that is already glucose, that is already gestational diabetes. Okay? So here, in the two-step, you would see here, what did they do? They perform GLT. Sir, hala, ano yung GLT? Hindi mo yan binanggit kanina, sir. GLT is glucose loading test or glucose challenge test. Siya rin yun. Glucose loading test or glucose challenge test. As you can see, non-fasting siya, guys, ha? Non-fasting. And afterwards, ayan, after nito, magpo-perform ka din ng 100 grams oral glucose tolerance test. Hindi naman yan isang araw. Siyempre, magkaibang araw. 'Di ba? Pinalaklak mo naman na ng madaming asukal yung mother. Okay? And again, please take note of the levels. Okay? Fasting, the first hour, second hour, and third hour. Okay. So, with that, that is actually the end of your diabetes mellitus. Now we go to the latter part of carbohydrate disorders and diseases. Okay? So, balik lang tayo kay hyperglycemia. Ayan. So, these are actually criteria for testing for pre-diabetes and diabetes. Sino yung mga pasyente that would need to be tested for fasting blood glucose and for your oral glucose tolerance test? Ayan. So, kanina, ayan, all adult greater than 45 years old should have their fasting glucose measured every 3 years unless already diagnosed with your diabetes. Okay? So, I'll give you a copy na lang of this one para hindi na kayo mahirapan mag-copy. Okay? So that you can read it na lang. Aside from that, testing should be earlier or more frequent with these risk factors. So please read on these risk factors. Some of these risk factors are already given this morning. So please read them. Ayan, yung sinabi nating racial and even yung family history are all affected here. Okay? And another one, criteria of type 2 diabetes testing in children beginning at age 10 years old. Okay? Paano? So, family history, ayan, race, ethnicity, signs of insulin resistance, and maternal history of diabetes. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina kay Miss Etrata, that all infants delivered from a GDM mother should also undergo testing. Okay? Should undergo testing. Ayan. So, maternal history of diabetes or gestational diabetes mellitus for those children for type 2. Okay? Type 2 diabetes mellitus. Question. Tingnan natin kung fresh pa. Can you give me one test that you can do to differentiate type 1 and type 2 diabetes mellitus? Can I hear from Polo? May miss ko na si Polo. Ang tahimik niya eh. Polo.
Sir,
Now, can you give me one test that will differentiate type
sir,
1?
dito.
What test?
Sir, ano yun?
What test can
Sir,
I
ano yun?
use to Hello? What
Tanong.
can I use? What test can I use to differentiate type 1 and type 2 diabetes mellitus?
Ano yung nag-differentiate sa answer?
Type 1 and type 2, DM. Anong test yung pwede kong gamitin?
C-peptide levels.
Correct. Okay, that's one. C-peptide level. Thank you, Polo. Aside from C-peptide level, Angela Gonzalez, Ashley Gonzalez, can you give another one? Hello, ayan.
Hello, sir. Ano po?
Okay, sino yung may autoantibodies? 1 or 2? Correct. Okay.
One po.
Good. So, those are the thank you so much guys. So, ayan. So, with regards to this one, okay, with regards to this one now, so, eto na yung natin, okay? Eto, pakitatandaan itong next slide ko, okay? 3 methods of diagnosis, okay? Each must be confirmed by one of the other on a subsequent day, okay? So, diabetes symptoms, meron kang diabetes symptoms, tapos may random glucose level ka. Then fasting glucose na greater than 126 and an oral glucose tolerance test na ganyan. So anong ibig kong sabihin na subsequent? Not because nag-abnormal ka sa fasting blood glucose, sasabihin mo na may diabetes ka, hindi agad. Okay? Candidate siya for diabetes but you need to confirm it with another test. Are you getting me? Okay, you need to confirm it with another test. So take for example for this one. May diabetes symptoms na siya, tapos nag-random glucose level ka. Anong pinagkaiba ng random blood glucose sa fasting blood glucose? Mr. Daguman. What is the difference between random blood glucose and fasting blood glucose? Gerald. Hindi sumasagot si Gerald. And then ayan. Random sir, anytime yung specimen. Correct. Yung fasting, ayan, sabi ni Gerald, yung yung random anytime, which is correct. Random blood glucose is collected any time of the day, and then your fasting glucose, yun yung may fasting na 8 to 12 hours. Okay? So all of this should be, at least 2 of this should be present for you to be able to say that a patient has diabetes mellitus. Okay? Patient naman with criteria are called pre-diabetes, those that has impaired blood glucose and impaired glucose tolerance test. Okay? Impaired glucose and impaired tolerance test. I'll be sending you this one na lang para hindi daw gumagana ang mic ni Gerald. Okay. So are we clear with this hyperglycemia? Kasi tapos na tayo sa hyperglycemia, tapos na tayo sa diabetes mellitus. Do you have any questions, clarification before I proceed?
Sir,
Go.
meron po rito sa Bishop, sir, nakalagay yung, sir, imbis na 3 methods, sir, 4 methods po.
This 2 methods that I am saying is coming from Henry's. Ayan.
Sir, may additional po na HbA1c. Disregard na lang po namin.
The HbA1c po pwede naman. Actually, yeah, you can do the HbA1c for the third one. Okay? For the fourth one rather. Ayan. For the fourth one. So itong gagawin natin, na-explain ko na ba yung HbA1c? HbA1c is for long-term glucose monitoring. Okay? For long-term glucose monitoring. So nandun kasi yan sa part nung ayan. Long-term glucose monitoring. So explain ko siya later. Kasi ako na pala yung mag-explain ng lab test later. Wala pa tayo sa lab test. Okay? I'll go faster ng konti. Okay? So, let's go now to, eto kaninang morning, nakuha nyo na to. Okay? You were able to get this kaninang morning na. Are you finished copying na ba with the other one? Okay. So, let's go now to hypoglycemia. Mabilis lang tong hypoglycemia. So, hypoglycemia, we mentioned it a while back that these are imbalances in your glucose utilization and production that can actually be life-threatening or can be transient only. So, hypoglycemia are related to your central nervous system, first and foremost because your brain is a main consumer of your glucose. So, less than or equal to 50 milligrams per deciliter will already be a diagnostic hypoglycemia value. Okay? Ano ba yung lower limit ng ating reference interval? Usually 70 milligrams per deciliter to 105 milligrams per deciliter. Yun yung normal. Kapag umabot sa less than or equal to 50 milligrams per deciliter, that is automatically hypoglycemia. Okay? That is automatically hypoglycemia. And in your in Henry's, okay, it mentioned there your Whipple's triad. Okay? Your Whipple's triad is actually a group of symptoms that can be seen in hypoglycemia. So, low blood glucose concentration with typical symptoms alleviated by glucose administration. So, ito, yung Whipple's triad are signs and symptoms that are commonly seen in hypoglycemic patient. Although, alleviated naman siya na, kumbaga, na lilesen yung burden or na lilesen yung complication ng hypoglycemia when glucose is already administered. Okay? When glucose is already administered. So, that is for your hypoglycemia. And when it comes to hypoglycemia, we have two types of symptoms. We have the classification based on symptoms. We have your neurogenic and we have your neuroglycopenic. Okay? Your neurogenic and your neuroglycopenic. So, ito yung mga symptoms that can be seen in your neurogenic and neuroglycopenic. Between the two, what is most severe is number 2, your neuroglycopenic. Okay? Your glucoglycopenic, because it can lead to behavioral changes, seizure, and even coma. Okay? And even coma. So remember increase ng glucose at sobrang baba ng glucose can both cause coma. Okay? Can both cause coma. Ayan. So ito si neurogenic and your neuroglycopenic symptoms. Okay. Moving forward, let's move forward na para for your hypoglycemia. Okay, for your hypoglycemia, we have patient that appears healthy. Ayan, no coexisting disease and those that has compensated coexistent diseases. So patient that appears to be ill. So these are the usual causes of hypoglycemia. Okay? Unang-una, insulinoma. When we say insulinoma, this is a tumor in the beta cell. Kung kanina, ang problema mo kay hyperglycemia, wala kang napoproduce na insulin, si insulinoma, ano ang problema? Sobra-sobra naman ang iyong insulin na sobrang bumababa na ang iyong glucose levels. Are we clear? Sobrang bumababa naman yung iyong glucose level. We have here, sulfonylurea, can also cause hypoglycemia. Tingnan niyo to, severe exercise and ketotic hypoglycemia. Okay? Severe exercise and ketotic hypoglycemia. Na-experience nyo na ba yon? Yung nag-exercise kayo nang biglaan, tas bigla kayong nahilo afterwards. Okay? So yung mga nag-attempt na magbalik alindog nung quarantine, nahilo lang. Okay? So there are also drugs that can cause hypoglycemia. So any drugs predisposing illness, and of course for hospital patients. Okay? For hospital patient. So please take note of this one. Okay? My next slide. So hypoglycemia, decreased plasma glucose. It can be transient or can be relatively insignificant or can really be life-threatening. In addition to that, it can occur both in healthy patients, healthy and sick patients. So symptoms, ayan, sabi nga natin kanina, symptoms of the glucose level will, symptoms of your glucose, symptoms will appear when your glucose levels start to reach about 50 to 55 milligrams per deciliter. Pag pumasok na ng 50, ano na agad yan? Hypoglycemia. Critical value, paki-remember si critical value, 40 milligrams per deciliter. Okay? 40 milligrams per deciliter. So that is for your hypoglycemia. Are we still clear? Are we clear? Are we clear? Gebulan, De La Cruz. Okay? So kayo yung mga nakikita ko dito. Okay. So
Sir?
moving forward, yes.
Sir, ano yung kaninang greater or equal to 50?
Greater or equal to 50, hypoglycemia na yon. Hindi siya greater or equal ha. Less than.
Ayaw nga pala, less than pala. Sorry. Sir, pero itong 40, sir, ano?
Yung 40, critical value na siya.
Ah,
Ayun. This one, 50-55, hypo na. Hypoglycemia na. But pag umabot na ng less than 40, critical value na siya. Okay? That is the time where the more severe, mga irreversible na ayan, mental confusion, eventually coma can actually happen. Okay?
okay. Thank you, sir.
Tanong ko lang, in your AUBF, are you done with the inborn carbohydrate yung mga inborn disorders? Not yet. Okay. So remember guys, tapos na tayo sa hyperglycemia. Gusto ko lang magkaroon ng compartmentalization sa ating mga utak. Tapos na tayo sa hyperglycemia. Tapos na tayo sa diabetes mellitus. Okay? Tapos na tayo kay hypoglycemia. Tapos na tayo sa sobrang taas at sobrang baba na glucose levels. Question. Your glucose are stored in your muscle and your liver as what form? Davis.
Low, sir. Ano po yun? Paulit, sir.
Your glucose is being stored in your liver and your skeletal muscle in what form?
Glycogen po, sir.
Your glycogen. Correct. And remember, di ba? Remember, last time, we were discussing the different enzymes. Kanina, yung mga may kagagawa ng hyper at hypo natin is because of hormones. Now, as we enter your inborn errors of carbohydrate metabolism, this will actually revolve mostly in the deficiency of different enzymes. Okay? Deficiency in different enzymes. And what are those enzymes? Okay? What are those enzymes deficiency? So, let us go first to the common one. So later, makikita nyo, may bibigay akong table sa inyo. Nandun naman na lahat. So, basta deficiency lang siya. Okay? So let's go first to your galactosemia. Okay? Your galactosemia is a congenital deficiency of one of the three enzymes involved in galactose metabolism. It can be your galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase, your galactokinase, or your uridine diphosphate galactose 4 epimerase, or your GAL. Among these three, the most common deficiency is your what? Your galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase. Sir, what happened if I have deficiency? So let us set that foundation first. Ano mang sakit yan, ano mang deficiency sa enzyme yan, laging ganito yung mangyayari. Just like in your HEMA, nag-discuss na ba kayo sa HEMA? In your porphyria, okay? Take for example, in your porphyria, kapag wala kang ALA synthase, wala kang ALA synthase, mag-accumulate lang yung succinyl-CoA mo tsaka yung alanine mo. Okay? Made-deposit lang sila. Kunwari, wala kang ferrochelatase, wala kang heme synthase, mag-form lang yung protoporphyrin 9 around your cell. mag-accumulate yung last na compound na nawala doon. Okay? So in galactosemia, okay, there is an increased level of galactose in your blood because one of these enzymes is deficient. Either your galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase, and this is the most common, your galactokinase or your uridine diphosphate galactose 4 epimerase. So these are the common enzymes that are deficient. The most common of which is your letter A. Okay? So what will happen? Of course, you would expect laboratory features such as elevated blood and urine galactose, a clinical feature of jaundice, hepatomegaly, easy bruisability, and galactosuria with E. coli sepsis, cataract, and sensory neural deafness. Okay? Sensory neural deafness. So please take note that even though galactose is a brain sugar, okay? Even though galactose is a brain sugar, excessive amount of galactose can affect your sensory neura, your brain as well. It can also elicit E. coli sepsis. And bakit po may hepatomegaly at jaundice? Okay? Hepatomegaly and jaundice. Since you cannot metabolize your galactose, you cannot metabolize your galactose in your body, hindi mo siya makatabolize, it will continually be stored in your body. At saan siya may store? In your muscles and in your liver. At dahil patuloy it is continually being stored in your liver now will continually enlarge. Hence, your hepatomegaly. At dahil may hepatomegaly ka din, meron din siyang jaundice because your galactose now is affecting your liver. Okay? Affecting your liver. So, laging ganon. Kapag hindi nakakatabolize, nai-store siya excessively, hence causing your hepatomegaly. So, what is the diagnostic test for this? We have your erythrocyte galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase activity. Okay? So, you measure the activity of your galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase. Bakit po yung enzyme na yan? Again, because it is the most common deficiency encountered in most of our patients. Okay? That is galactosemia. Let us move forward to your essential fructosemia. Fructosuria, rather. Essential fructosuria is an autosomal recessive disorder characterized by fructokinase deficiency. Wala kang fructokinase. At dahil wala kang fructokinase, anong nangyayari? Your fructokinase catalyzes the conversion of your fructose into becoming your fructose 1-phosphate. Your fructose 1-phosphate, if you can remember and if you would go back, okay? If you would go back to your if you would actually go back to your pathway, that is actually part of your glycolysis, okay? That is part of your glycolysis. So what happened here this time is that your fructose is not metabolized, okay? Because of the absence of your fructokinase. So what is the diagnostic indicator here? Dahil nga tinawag natin siyang essential fructosuria, meaning to say there is fructose in your urine, and hence that is already our diagnostic indicator. Presence of fructose in the urine is termed your fructosuria. Okay? Your fructosuria. Konti na lang to, guys. Okay. So, let's go to your hereditary fructose tolerance. Hereditary fructose intolerance. I guess most of you are familiar of the lactose intolerance, correct? Meaning to say, you cannot metabolize lactose. That's why there are gastrointestinal irritability that's happening. Wala kang lactase noon. Nagigets? Kapag lactose intolerant yung patient, you don't have lactase to catabolize your disaccharide lactose. Your lactose, when catabolized, what will be the product? What will be the product, Ram? De Luna. Sige, check natin kung gising pa yung iba. Ram, De Luna, what is the catabolic products of lactose? If I can lactose.
Lactose,
Yeah.
glucose and galactose. Tama po ba?
Ay, correct. Okay, di ba? Glucose and your galactose. Okay? Glucose and your galactose. Thank you, Ram. So, glucose and your galactose. When it comes to fructose intolerance naman, fructose kasi is already a monosaccharide or a disaccharide? Mono or disaccharide? Fructokinase. Aba, may nakita kong nag-di.
Mono.
Nakita kong nag-mono. Sabi ni Pau, it's monosaccharide. The answer is monosaccharide. Sucrose yung sucrose yung disaccharide. Okay? So in hereditary fructose intolerance, there's a defect of fructose 1,6-bisphosphate aldolase B activity in the liver, kidney, and your intestine. So clinical features niya, irritability, lethargy, seizures, and hepatomegaly. Okay? Again, hindi siya na-process, hindi siya na-metabolize, na-store lang siya, nag-cause siya ng enlargement of your liver. What is lethargy? Maricar.
Sir, parang pagkaantok po.
Pagkaantok. Okay, yung nararanasan tuwing alas 3 at alas 4. Letter G is actually the letter before letter H. Okay? So, letter G. Okay, so letter G is the letter before letter H. But seriously, yun. Letter G is yung decrease yung thriving ng patient. Hindi siya nagta-thrive. Okay, so laging antok, laging mahina ang pangangatawan. Ayan. So, that is letter G. Okay? So, ayan. So, fructose 1,6-phosphate bisphosphate deficiency. Ayan. So, failure of hepatic glucose generation by gluconeogenesis precursors such as lactate and glycerol. And of course, clinical features are hypoglycemia, lactic acidosis, convulsion, and coma. Kung mapapansin ninyo, okay, remember, when you go back to your pathway, your fructose 1,6-phosphate, okay, let me try to present it sa inyo so that you can see it. Why are we saying that gluconeogenesis is also hampered? Bakit na-affect niya yung gluconeogenesis? So let me just try to open our book. Ayan, can everybody see my yung screen ng iPad? Kita ba? Anong hinahanap nating It's your fructose 1,6-bisphosphate deficiency. At nasaan siya dito? Ito po siya, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, here. Nakikita po siya dito. This is your fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Okay? At kapag deficient yan, remember that your glycerol will first become phosphoglycerate and then paakyat siya para maging glucose. Pero, dahil sa kadahilanan na wala kang fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, it cannot progress upward. Are you getting me? It cannot progress upward, hence, nai-stop at naiipon lahat sila dito sa stage na to. And vice versa. Hindi rin yan makakatawid pa ganito. Are you getting me? Hindi siya makakatawid dito, hindi rin siya makakatawid papunta doon. That is how important your enzymes are. Okay? So, that is one. Okay? So, let me return back to my so nakukuha na tayo bakit yung gluconeogenesis natin is impaired Okay. So we now go to your glycogen storage diseases. Can you see my slides? Ayan. So, glycogen storage diseases. Okay? Kanina pinag-usapan lang natin yung mga iba pang mga deficiency. But for this one, mabilis na lang to. I'll just be giving you the table and I'll just be explaining how can you study it on your own. Okay? Kasi redundant na kapag inano. But I will show everything to you. Okay? What are glycogen storage diseases? So deficiency in enzyme for glycogen metabolism are called glycogen storage diseases. Okay? These are inherited autosomal recessive traits and they are seen using serial of blood collection that are collected for 2 hours at 15 minutes interval for your testing. Here, meron tayong tinatawag na intravenous glucose tolerance test. But much about that, let me just explain to you what is glycogen storage disease. Okay? I'll share my screen again using my iPad. So, glycogen storage disease, ibig sabihin nun, the production of your glycogen and the breakdown of your glycogen. Okay? Both the destruction of your glycogen and the production of your glycogen. Please remember this, guys. Okay? Please remember that, okay? Di ba, sabi natin, isusulat ko yung glucose natin, okay? Your glucose, when acted upon by your hexokinase, will become glucose 6-phosphate. And since nga ikakaroon tayo ng rotation, yung glucose 6-phosphate natin magiging glucose 1-phosphate. Okay? Glucose 1-phosphate. And after glucose 1-phosphate, what will happen? Your glycogen synthase will act upon that, and now we will be having your glycogen as the storage. Okay? The glycogen as your storage. So medyo naghahang po yung ating iPad. Hala, makisama ka. Okay. Your glycogen, yan, nakikita. So from your glucose, from your glucose 6-phosphate, glucose 1-phosphate, and your glycogen. Okay? Andito po siya. Itong part na to, glucose 6-phosphate, glucose 1-phosphate, and then now is stored as glycogen. Okay? Yun naman ay kapag i-store mo siya. What about kapag magkakaroon na tayo ng glycogenolysis. Okay? Glycogenolysis. What will happen? Glycogen, glucose 1-phosphate, glucose 6-phosphate, and ito yung sagot kanina sa quiz. Glucose 6-phosphatase. Okay? Your glucose 6-phosphatase is a very important enzyme that will actually remove your phosphate para maging glucose na siya. Nakukuha po? Magre-remove siya ng phosphate para yung glucose mo maging glucose na on its own. That is your glucose 6-phosphatase. Ibig sabihin, tinanggal niya si phosphate group. Okay? So, what's the T, sir? What's the T? So, ang important for you guys to remember is this. Deficiency of enzymes that are related to your glycogen storage disease would cause, ano ba yung reason kung bakit natin ini-store yung glucose? Para may gamitin ka in the future, correct? Pero ano naman yung problema kapag wala kang enzyme para ma-store mo siya, problema yon. Pero alam nyo ba, problema din kapag wala kang enzyme para ibalik yung glycogen mo into its glucose form. Kasi iipon ka lang ng glycogen inside your liver. So here is the table. So you actually have until, this is actually, yan, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, until 11. Actually 12. Ayan. So, what is the most common? The most common is actually your glycogen storage disease type 1A, which is your von Guericke. Your von Guericke is a deficiency in your glucose 6-phosphatase. Okay? Glucose 6-phosphatase. Ano naman yung 1B? deficiency in 1,6-phosphatase translocase. Yung POMS disease, your Corey-Forbes, ayan, debrancher glucosidase. We have here Anderson, wala kang brancher enzymes. In the McArdle, yung muscle phosphorylase mo ang wala. So meaning to say you cannot store it in your muscles. Your liver phosphorylase, ayan, phosphofructokinase. So sir, ano pong gagawin namin sa table na yan? Okay? At bakit importante tong table na to? Marami ng beses na lumabas yung mga diseases na to sa board exam at lalabas ito sa inyong exams. Okay? Marami ng times na lumalabas deficient von Guericke is what type ng glycogen storage disease and also the enzyme deficiency. Okay? So how will you study this? Okay? How will you study this? Of course, you study, hindi lahat may pangalan. I guess you observe that. Yung iba type 1 lang talaga, type 1A, type 1B, but the rest, meron siyang other name. Like yung von Guericke, your POMS, your Tarui, okay? Your Anderson, McArdle, ayan, Hers. So all those are different And you also have here the deficiency in your glycogen synthase. Okay, your glycogen synthase. Kung mapapansin ninyo, lahat sila may hepatomegaly. Bakit? Kasi kaya nila i-store pero hindi na nila kayang ibalik into glucose. They can store it as glycogen but they can no longer return it back into becoming your glucose. And that is a problem. Kasi marami kang reserve pero hindi mo nagagamit yung reserve. It's like meron kang milyon sa bangko na hindi mo alam yung PIN code. Okay? Alam mo lang na mayaman ka sa reserves pero hindi mo siya nagagamit. Unlike your type 0 na glycogen storage disease, which is a deficiency in your glycogen synthase, wala siyang hepatomegaly. Bakit po siya walang hepatomegaly? Kasi simulat sa pool, you cannot store your glucose as glycogen. Okay? Kasi yung glycogen synthase natin is the main enzyme for the storage of your glucose. Okay? So with that, I will be giving you okay, sige. So napagtanto po natin habang nagmumuni-muni, habang pinapatugtog yung paubaya kaninang umaga, ibibigay ko na po yung PowerPoint so that you will be able to study this part better. Okay? And of course, please take note to study chapter 14 and chapter 16 of Bishop and Henry's because that is where all these things came from. Okay? So, thank you so much for listening. That is the diseases. So, I think Ma'am Violi is here. Ma'am, I think baka may announcement lang shortly si Ma'am Violi. So, let's just have a short break bago ako bumalik for the diagnostic test for glucose. Ayan. So, nawala si Ma'am Vio. Baka nawala yung niya. So, I'm already finished with this one. So, guys, thank you so much. And hopefully, meron kayong natutunan. But let me stop the recording first so that I can entertain some of your questions.